Ali, hello. We are
Hola.
we are now live across the interwebs, or at least on Facebook.
One place. Got to start
Yeah,
somewhere.
one place. Exactly, exactly. How was your Fourth of July weekend? What'd you do?
It was great. My younger son and I spent some time riding bikes around the city, and we, do what we call blowing up money, burning money, otherwise known as fireworks.
Yep,
So we
yep.
had a good time, got some good R&R in. So yeah, how about you?
Yeah, we went down to Lake of the Ozarks, and kind of
Oh, fun.
hung out down there, and bummed on the lake, and all that kind of fun stuff. So it was good. It was good. Yeah, yeah. So I
Awesome.
just got back into town last night, and then this morning I had to figure out what my life was all about and all the things that I'd missed for 4 days.
Yeah, I feel like if you miss 10 minutes on Twitter, you're going to miss pretty much half of whatever happened in the world. So
Right. Exactly.
how it is these
Exactly.
days.
Yeah. That's kind
Yeah.
of how I feel about it too. So, for people who happen to be watching, by the way, welcome to everybody who's joining us here on Facebook. Go ahead and, if anybody has a question, go ahead and toss it in the Facebook chat, and we'll get it up here and answer it. But for anybody who doesn't know you, Ali, why don't you give us the quick who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, well, I'm Ali Schwanke, the one and only. I always tell people that, that can't be my Las Vegas name because if you search me, you will find me. You will find
Hmm.
me anywhere. But I own a company our headquarters is in Lincoln, but we serve clients nationwide and we specialize in B2B content marketing. So essentially making business interesting. Just because you can write doesn't mean that you should,
Yeah.
is how a
Yes.
lot of the internet functions. Just because you can make videos doesn't mean that you should, is how a lot of the YouTube content is. So, we want to apply finding interesting angles to create content to convert customers and ultimately, influence that marketing journey for companies.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I do. That's why I love this kind of content.
How'd you get into marketing? Are you one of those marketing majors, or are you one of those people that just stumbled into it?
No, whenever I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed and it says like, "Hey, who here majored in marketing?" and I, nope, not me. I was on a path. I was pre med, but I still, gave myself several options. And so
Hmm.
after school, I actually opened a photography business and then went back and studied some graphic design and marketing, just kind of as I built that up. And then that was my first like content creation. I was going to rid the world of stock photos and that didn't exactly happen. But since then, delved into video, delved into content, and then the rest is history. So love,
Yeah.
love, love, love content. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, if any of you don't know me, my name is Micah. I own and operate a company here in Omaha called Populous Co-working, and from time to time, I've been blamed for people's marketing, and so I do that from time to time as well. So, well, let's get to some questions. I had a few people shoot some in earlier, so I can toss those up. And then if you're
Sure.
joining us on Facebook, put your questions in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on that, and we'll get to those as well. Okay, so let's start with a fun, hard hitting question. Are you ready, Ali?
I feel like I need a drum roll.
I
Okay.
know, right? Oops,
Yes.
not that. Let me actually give you our question. Hold
Inefficient.
on. Okay, so how do I build up my email list from nothing? If I'm starting from scratch, I'm got a new business, or I just haven't been doing email. How do I get a list going? Where should I start?
This
Go.
is a question. This is a question that's actually the wrong question.
Interesting.
Um, So the problem with that question is it assumes you need to have a giant email list in order to be successful.
Right.
So what people often forget is an email list, just like anything else, any business. Your first 100 customers, your first 100 signups, your first 100 anythings are going to be the hardest for you to get,
Right.
and that's often the people around you are going to be a big part of that. So what you don't want to do is add everybody and your mom's friends, your, high school buddies. Like, you don't want to add them to a list and just blast them and say, read my newsletter. But what you do want to do is reach out to the people that you do know, that know the value that you have and know what you're working on. Talk to them about the problem you're solving, and then invite them to join the list and share it with their friends. So that would be the first way to get people on the list, and feel like, because half of the battle is momentum, right? If I don't have momentum, I don't keep up doing it. Anybody who's charted their blog numbers without them growing after a while is like, why am I still doing this?
Right.
So to get people beyond that stage, once you've got that early initial growth, you have to go where your audience is. So if you have, if you're marketing to, let's say, solopreneurs or people that might, come to Populous co-working space because they need their first office as a freelancer, you're going to most likely put Populous as an opportunity to partner with to grab the people who were coming into your space. Yep. So in that case, you would need to identify a conversion opportunity or something interesting that they would be willing to pay with their email address. So it might be, here is the 3-month marketing plan that you need as a solopreneur. Get on an email list and get 90 days of content. No brainer, publish it. You're going to be off to the races. And by doing that and identifying Populous would be much better than sending that to all of your friends saying, look at this cool new offer that I got. Do you want to get on my list? Right. So it comes down to like the value piece, and then also the audience that you're going to partner with to get it in front of them in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the value piece is so big, right? Like, people don't care about your company. That's the hard truth. They don't.
No, right? They don't.
They and so maybe your mom cares, but outside of that, like, you got to deliver value to people. And so I think the most common mistake I see with people trying to build an early email list is they want to talk about themselves, and the reality is like, people don't really care. They want to know something that's valuable to them. And so, I mean, I think a great example of this is not exactly email, but just from a content perspective is what you guys did with your YouTube channel. Like, you didn't make a YouTube channel about all the marketing things that you do. You made a YouTube channel about HubSpot. And I think that's the kind of thing you need to be thinking about with your email list. The other, like, if we just get super practical, just to give an example, like for Populous, we started a year ago. I needed an email list. And so we did events, and you have to sign up for the event with your email address. And that was like, so that was just like practical. How could we get some emails? Well, we'll throw some events, we'll invite people to it, and then they'll give us their email. And hopefully if they showed up to a Populous event, they're on some level interested in what we're doing. And so that's kind of how we got it started. Do you have any like practical things you've done for clients before to kind of help them get an email list going or build their email list up?
Yeah, the events are a great way. That's also where webinars come in, offering a free online course in coordination with someone else. So some people who have grown thought leadership followings may teach a course over on Udemy or on Skillshare or on Thinkific or something of that nature. And then because they promoted value over there, they invite them to join their list.
Yep.
You might also find that having a podcast, that's another piece that people forget about, is they create this content thing, but there's no magnet to take them back to their main marketing property. Yeah. And that email list is that thing. So if you, at the end of a podcast episode, there's a reason to jump on the list and not just to get notified for new episodes. I already get that in my iPhone. Like Apple tells me when a new podcast episode comes out. So there has to be more than that. But events, especially now that we're all virtual, events are a great way to get people on an email list.
Okay, so let's go to next question. So I'm just starting a company and I don't have a product ready yet. Can I start marketing already? And how would I go about that?
So we don't have a product yet, and you want to start marketing. Well,
you're not ready to go to market yet, but you're getting there. I don't know, maybe you've got some lead time, you're still in development or something. How do
Mhm.
you start, or maybe you don't, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's challenging because it comes down to the way you define marketing. So people
Mm-hmm.
think marketing is the here's my product, go buy it. We're ready. It's awesome. We're solving problems. But really what happens before that is the audience building. And if you're not building an audience, then when you have something ready that solves a problem that they have,
Yep.
there isn't going to be anybody to tell or invite into the party because your guest list is, two people. So the marketing of that actually then comes down to more of the psychological setup, which is what is the buildup of what's coming? Like, I don't know if you remember back, it
Right.
was probably 5 or 6 years ago, Gatorade changed their brand to be just that G with
Right.
the lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
And they would run commercials and they would be these beautifully done commercials with athletes. And they, at the end, would just put the G. And nobody knew what that G was. So
That's
everyone's
right.
like, what is G? What's coming up? And I think as we've looked at more and more brands doing things like that, we buy into this idea that we all want to close that curiosity loop. So if you're solving an interesting problem and you keep teasing out the problem until the product's ready, your biggest risk is when the product is ready, is it as great as you teased out? And that's
Mm-hmm.
that's usually what we find out with like marketing led products versus product led companies, where product led companies are like, okay, our product's great, we did all the validation, now let's begin marketing. And so they end up doing this, like the marketing's catching up with the product versus the other way around.
Yep. Yep.
So you
No,
definitely can do marketing before, but you have to tease it out and use that psychological aspect of marketing versus here it is.
yeah, no, that's so good. And I think you touched on a really important point about that early marketing is you don't want, you definitely want to, what, undersell and over deliver, right? And we can have a
Yeah.
tendency in those early days, if we're looking for stuff to talk about, to again start talking about ourselves and all these great things we're going to do. And it's better to undersell it and come in and over deliver than get too crazy with that stuff. Oh no, did I lose you, Allie? Hold on just a second. Oh no, if we lost Allie, we can't answer any questions. We'll get her back in the stream here momentarily. We may have had a small internet issue there. Oh no, she got kicked out. Well, that's no good. I am currently chatting with Allie to bring her back into our stream. So one moment here as we troubleshoot our technical difficulties here. Um, we'll get Allie back here in just one moment. There she is. Allie, I can see you. Can I hear you? Talk to me just a second.
Hey, Micah, sorry, I must have got
Yes.
kicked out.
Yes. Well, welcome back.
Awesome. I'm back.
Jason, yes, Jason in the chat said he can make up answers for me if I want. So yes, Jason,
Deal.
yes,
Deal.
yeah, Jason, we're coming to you live if we lose Allie again. So so in the chat too. So Michael Bourne was just commenting when it comes to email about in HubSpot. He was having to do a lot of work on the integrity of lists when he kind of
Yep.
uh, kind of came into a company and was coming into what they had already. Maybe we should talk a little bit about that, like not necessarily building a list from scratch, but say you've got some lists, some emails, some stuff, especially maybe, a lot of times I see companies with lists they haven't really used much and now we're going to use them. How do you go about figuring out, okay, what do we have here? What's good? What's not good? Do you have a kind of a process for sorting through old email lists and contacts?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what we're walking into and how much integrity they already have.
Mm-hmm.
It's so to use an analogy, it's imagine walking on into a giant, huge building full of bicycles. and you don't know how old the bicycles are. You know, some of them might work, and you have a whole bunch of world-class athletes that, you know, are going to be doing the Tour de France, and they're going to get a bike in there. And the likelihood that all those bikes are going to be road ready is pretty low.
Hmm.
And there's going to be frustration from some of those athletes if they get on a bike and you're like, well, I told you the list, you know, I told you this bike was good. And the athlete's like, yeah, actually it's missing this, or it doesn't go as well as it should. And I think if we look at lists being more like currency or property that we need to maintain like a house, we do a much better job of that when we take a step further and think about it being, those are actual people. Those
Right.
aren't email addresses. Like, they're not email addresses. Those are tied to human beings.
Yeah.
And when they're not tied to human beings, they're tied to spam bots or spam traps, which will get you in trouble.
Right.
You know, they're like your list has a bunch of undercover cops in it. So if you don't do your due diligence, you're going to email jail.
That's
Is
right.
how that works.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I think when like everybody in the room understands that, then the email integrity becomes it's still not an easy process, but we're going to go ahead and do our due diligence of sending this through a list clean like Never Bounce or datavalidation.com, where we just have their algorithm run which one of these emails are most likely to be either a spam trap or just have a deliverability issue. So you do that first. Second being, we're going to email everyone on this list once and assume that person, like, tell them what we're doing with their information or tell them what's happening next. And if they want to unsubscribe, they can. And then, like Michael mentioned in HubSpot, some of these email clients, if you email to them too many times and they don't open, they automatically get noted as unengaged. And if you don't take them off your list, you will have deliverability issues like from that moment. So I think the challenge is often with the marketers educating the rest of the company as to, like, guys, we can't just take this list and blast information. Like, nobody wants to be blasted with anything. Stop using that word. But if we take that list and say, I now have this audience of people who have done this thing, what's the most logical next step that we need to do this information? And it sounds like Michael's done some good work in HubSpot. It's painstaking, but that's how I definitely look at it.
Yeah. So just a real practical tip from what you were just saying. I mean, what I do in HubSpot is if you have those unengaged people or those hard bounces, I add them to a list in HubSpot, do not send list. And then when you send an email out of HubSpot, a marketing email, you have that option, where you can pick the list you're sending to, and then you can pick a do not send list as well.
Exclude these people. Right.
And so that's kind of my like quick and dirty way to just make sure I'm not engaging those contacts. So if anybody wants to, and then you mentioned do not send, which is a great one to send your list through. I use Hunter.io, but there's a couple of those great softwares out there you can run your list through to try to get a sense of how good these contacts are and clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, there's also the HubSpot recently came out with the feature. I'm not sure how old it is, but when you get to the send screen, you can check a box that says "Do not send to unengaged contacts." And it like from a marketing perspective, if you're reporting every month how many people you're sending to, it's like the stab in the heart, because all of a sudden the executive team is like, why are we not sending to 5,000? Why did we only send to 4,200 this month? Well, here's how that happens, and it is what it is. It's people get unengaged, they move on, they have different needs, and so they might not be a right fit for you anymore.
Yeah, and I think, that leads perfectly into kind of, for me, like the number one marketing metric is engagement for me.
Right.
And I think we all can get so caught up in the size of the list, the size of the following, whatever it might be. And even to your point of those early email lists, right? When you're getting those early email lists started, it's not necessarily important that you have 5,000 people on your list. What matters is that people are actually reading the email that you're sending it to, and so that engagement matters so much more than just the size of how many people you have in your list or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Okay, Ali, what's the best SEO strategy right now for a startup?
That's a very blanket question. It's like, what style of shoes should I buy?
Right.
Depends on what you're doing. Are you running? Are you going to a dance? Are you going to a wedding? But I will answer it this way. So SEO comes down to two things. Well, there's a lot of things, but I'll boil it into two. There's SEO for your website and how people might discover you based on your name. So it's going to include things like on page. So we've got things for if this is new to you, there's page titles, there's meta descriptions, there's all these like places basically on your site that you're supposed to put the right words essentially that you get discovered. There's the other side of that is the technical setup, which means how your site is structured, what the navigation looks like. I've seen a lot of startups that use clever pages like, let's just say, I can't even think of an example right now, but they call their services page something besides services, or they call their products page something besides products. Right. Okay. That's hard in this environment because we have an attention span that's so fast that if I can't find what I'm looking for, I bounce off, which affects my click-through rate, which affects my dwell time, all things that feed into the Google search environment. But if you get those two figured out, technical and on-page SEO, so those are like actually on your site. So the getting people to your site then means creating content that is based on their search phrase that they are looking for to get to your site. So sometimes startups have a problem they're solving that has a high ability of discover. It has a high probability of being discovered. So if you're creating a startup that it's going to help me get better gas mileage in my car, for example, I might be searching things like how to get better gas mileage in my car, or app to track gas mileage, or tips for saving money with my vehicle. Like those are all discoverability phrases that you might end up at this company. Let's call them like Gas IQ. I'm sure there's probably one called Gas IQ. If you are if you're solving a problem that people think they already have solved. So let's say, for example, there's a company in Lincoln that they just got some funding. They're called Company Cam. They great products, but their audience thought that they already had their problem solved because they were taking pictures with their iPhone, storing them in folders, putting them in Dropbox, sharing them with Google Drive. Nobody was out looking for how to take better pictures or how to store and organize their pictures on their phone. So if you have a problem you're solving and no one quite is aware that they need to search for the answer yet, your search strategy is going to be much different, and they won't be searching for your product by name. They are going to be way higher in what we call the sales and marketing funnel than that like specific search phrase of I need an app that does this. So I guess depending on your startup, your SEO strategy is going to center around either content related to the problem that you then have to nurture them toward your solution, or if they're looking for a head-to-head solution, if you're a startup, you're probably going to be up against people that already have pretty sophisticated SEO already. So you're most likely as a startup going to have to invest in paid search or search ads or social ads, which is why you see a lot of startups when they first get funding, what do? They spend it on paid advertising because they can't enter the marketplace organically because someone else is already beating them to that page one.
Yep. No, that's so good. I think I've been trying to get better at understanding, as you said, how customers are approaching the problem. I think we talk a lot about understanding the problem you're solving, but we don't maybe talk quite as much about understanding how your customers are finding that problem or engaging that problem, or how they're talking about the problem, or if they even understand they have a problem yet, right? Because that Company Cam is a great example of you could solve an actual problem, but customers don't understand yet that it's an issue or that it could even be better. And so trying to figure out how those customers are searching or what they're looking for right now and how you can kind of piggyback on that, I think is a really important piece of that kind of early SEO strategy.
Yeah, that's also where YouTube comes in. So there's, we've got an article on our website if people want to go over there and just look for SEO. I think it's like SEO tips or something, but there's a multiple of places on the first page of Google that you can actually get search rankings. So there's, if you're a local business, there's a local pack, there's images, there's videos, there's links, there's actually Twitter snippets that come out there. There's featured snippets. There's people also ask, like, if you look at the landscape of a page one on Google, it's not just the first article. There's like lots of other stuff on that page. And so a really good tip for a startup is like looking at the topics that they're going to be addressing in their user journey and looking at the questions that people also ask Like, take those questions verbatim and just write blog posts about those questions. Take
Right.
the same questions and head over to YouTube, the world's second largest search engine. People use YouTube. A lot of people think like, oh, YouTube creators. YouTube is meant for a how the heck do I do this? Show me how search engine.
Right. Right.
So if you're a startup and people are looking to solve a problem that you kind of fit into, figure out how they're searching for it and just literally show them and educate them how to do it. And then again, give them like a tie back to your product or your website. And that could be a search strategy that you could tailor now, because a lot of people, especially B2B, they haven't quite realized the power of YouTube just yet. So get
Yep.
on the wave while it's still high.
Right. Still a hot one to get on for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so this one's kind of fun. What's your favorite marketing hack right now? What's the one that you're using right now that you're just like, this is fun, or quirky, or whatever it is?
I think I probably have a couple. And they come in different categories. Some of my favorite marketing hacks. This seems like a no-brainer hack, but go and just hang out in online communities. So the people are always looking for like the tactic or the thing or the bullet, and listening to people talk. The hack is the best marketers in the world don't sell you something based on some creative like brainstorming session that they had. The
Right.
best marketers take the words you already said and tell them back to yourself. So
Right.
why are we trying to be so clever all the time when we simply need to listen to what the customers say, remind them of what they said, and point them toward the solution they said that they wanted? So
Yep.
ta-da, like go hang out in some communities. And that's literally where we've discovered a lot of our topics for our YouTube channel. There's several forums, people comment on our videos, and we have a very, very, very active commenting strategy on our YouTube channel. So
Okay.
every single one of those comments we respond to. We respond to our competitors' comments when they don't respond to their comments. And so it becomes this really good conversation. So that's my first hack. The second one would be there's a fine line between hack and slime.
Yeah.
And this one could edge on slime if you aren't careful. But there's a suite of products around LinkedIn that allow you to create what's called engagement pods. And so
Yep.
you can essentially seed your LinkedIn feed with some early engagement to trip the algorithm for your personal posts. But if you do it too much, it comes off disingenuous. But if you do it even a little bit and you haven't been very active before, it immediately tells people like, okay, this guy's now using a robo something. So you have to figure out how to do it so that it creates active engagement in an authentic way, in a way that only helps you get over that initial like hour algorithm.
Right.
And then you have to be human after that. So it's a little hack, but again, I've seen a lot of slime with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think everything, like every marketing tactic, right? Like if you overuse it or overdo it or whatever, it gets slimy pretty fast. If you're trying to be genuine, you can generally avoid that sometimes. My let's see. So I've been using a little combination of Phantom Buster and Hunter.io.
Nope, that's one of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Phantom Buster is definitely one of those that can get super slimy really fast.
Yeah.
But it allows you to scrape a lot of really interesting data, especially from LinkedIn. And so I've been kind of just playing with like the types of things I can get with that. For instance, you can take a set of leads from LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and then I create a retargeting list for ads.
Oh,
So I
sure.
don't email those people, but I can create a pretty targeted audience list out of it or something like that. So I've just been kind of like messing with the different kinds of things I can get out of that recently to see kind of what's there and what's not there. And then I think on the B2B side, like LinkedIn is just kind of fascinating right now.
Yeah.
It's so different than, Facebook's really cheap right now. So I've been buying more ads on Facebook. But on the
Yeah.
LinkedIn side, when it comes to content and engagement, there's a lot of kind of interesting stuff happening there. So I think if you're a business, especially if you're a B2B product or service, I think that's kind of a very interesting frontier right now, so to speak.
Yeah. I would agree.
So, so between all the social channels and YouTube and Vimeo and email and websites. There's so much stuff out there. Where should somebody start? So if they're not doing a lot of marketing right now, or even if they are, but they're just unsure that they're doing it right, I think, it's easy to probably look at all the different places you could go and think to yourself, where the heck do I start with all of this? What advice would you give somebody on kind of just dipping their toe in the water, trying to find the right places for them?
A lot of this comes down to what their immediate needs are and what their long-term needs are. And I hate that I think every marketing question, probably business question, ends with like, it depends. But the best piece of advice that someone gave me about social is get really good at one platform first, because you can learn to repurpose based on what people find engaging, but you can't learn to repurpose when you're just basically like, spreading content into a void.
Yeah.
So if you select Facebook right now, and you might, because that might be the most popular platform, you need to select it for where your audience is. And that doesn't mean because Gary Vee said so. It means talk to your audience and figure out where they are and use that to your advantage. So if you are B2B, there's probably a good likelihood that LinkedIn should be one of the main places that you conquer first. The interesting thing is I've done some research lately we do research as part of our content strategy. And I talked to a couple of people and I asked them, I said, what do you use for social media? And they gave me like, I use some Instagram. I've been kind of doing a few things on TikTok. I do use Twitter, whatever. And I said, okay. And so I wrote those down. And I said, do you use LinkedIn? And they're like, oh yeah, I use LinkedIn every day. Didn't even throw LinkedIn in the same category as social media.
Right.
So like with that realization, okay, I could probably just use LinkedIn right now and forget the other stuff. But if you start somewhere, the biggest problem in getting started is if you have engaging things to say and someone goes to your profile and you have 5 followers, you lose all of the credibility and authority that one would have of someone thinking that you have something worth to say.
Yep.
So the first thing on social media usually is to get at least an initial, what I call look alive plan going.
That's good.
So
I like that.
Do you have a pulse? The look alive strategy. And then as you build the look alive, like just continually having a heartbeat every week, 1 post a week. Let's build up the audience by using those somewhat, again, questionable strategies / slimy, because you can invite up to 100 contacts a day to your LinkedIn company page.
Yep.
You can connect with unlimited numbers of people on LinkedIn without getting, don't send them a request to have them buy from you the minute they connect with you. But the bigger your network is, the more authority you appear to have, which makes your the wheel continue to turn as you build social. So that goes for all platforms. So that's where I would start first with look alive, and I would start with making sure that you have authority, and then you're going to have to pay to play initially when you're building your platform. So hire someone who knows how to do ads to build an audience.
Yep. No, those are really good. I love the look alive plan. That's a great way to put that. You touched on this a little bit, but I think there's just a natural part of having to research and try and test as well.
Yeah.
I in the amount of consulting I've done, I usually don't recommend, if people are kind of starting to try the more obscure platforms, I usually say, I would stick with Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, one of the main players, because you're going to be able to get better data faster, I think. Mm-hmm. But there's also just an amount of, you got to be intentional and try some platforms and see where you find your people and where you get the best response. And I think you also have to consider what you do well from a content perspective. To your point much earlier, like, just because you can make a video doesn't mean you should make a video. So, if you don't know how to make videos and you shouldn't be making videos, YouTube might not be the best place for you to start. But if you enjoy writing and that's something you can do well, maybe going to your blog and going to LinkedIn and doing LinkedIn, stories and that kind of stuff is a good place for you. So I think there's kind of that mix between, okay, what do you do well, and then just getting some testing going. I'm always trying different things. How does this content do over here, and how does it do over there, and what resonates well with other people. And I like your point too about, you just got to acknowledge like there's some pay to play early on, and it just is, and I never went,
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes there's this like, what mindset out there that somehow you can hack this whole thing for free and you'll never have to pay a dime in marketing. And that's just either rare or impossible. It doesn't, there's a reason why Facebook makes billions of dollars. So you got to pay a little bit.
I ask people all the time. This has become kind of my saying is, how would you like to pay with time or money? And usually you just don't have enough of the time, which is why you need the money. Because you could individually message each one of your Facebook followers.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Here, I put a new post up. Go see it. Message. Okay, one, that's annoying. Two, that's not worth your time.
Right.
So why not pay Facebook to show your content to those people so that you can go invest your time elsewhere?
Yep.
And that's hard, I think, for people to understand.
Nope, that's good. That's good. Well, I think that's all of our questions we have for today. Mark in the chat was asking, have you ever done a partnership with Nebraska DECA for a high school chapter? And would anyone be interested in that? Ali, would you ever do a partnership with a high school DECA program?
I'd probably have to figure out what that is.
It's like
it's like I know it has something to do with marketing and business, but my high school did not offer that, and I think that the most that I've been involved with any collegiate stuff has been through the AMA, which has been wonderful. But have them shoot me a note because I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I would. Mark, you should reach out to Ali because she's a great mentor, and I'm sure she would come speak to your group or talk to them. We always used to joke in high school that nobody knew what DECA was, so it was like the mafia. Like everybody was in DECA, but nobody exactly knew what it was. So that's DECA. Okay, well, if people want to find you, Ali, how do they come find you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, they can Google me. They'll find me anywhere. No, they can go over to our website at simplestrat.com. We've got a page with free resources on there. I think we've got 12 different free resources that they can download and use in their business. We've got a blog that comes out pretty regularly, weekly, if not more, so they can get those resources. And then if you want to head over to YouTube, if you're a HubSpot user, you'll definitely find our tutorials helpful. And if you search HubSpot, I would say search HubSpot hacks, but if you just search HubSpot on YouTube, you'll see my face pretty much everywhere.
Oh, fancy.
We've managed to rank pretty highly for a large number of terms over on YouTube. So for the moment, we do own a lot of that home screen. So that's good.
It's almost like you know what you're doing. It's almost like this is what you do for a living or something like that.
It has been interesting because I've always been a fan of having a company that when I look at a client and I say, hey, you should try this type of content marketing strategy. And I don't want them to be like, well, you guys aren't doing anything. So that I wanted to make sure that was the case. And it's funny because people come to us now saying, you know what you did over here? I want to do something like that too. So that is a good thing for us.
Awesome. Well, if you guys, if anybody wants to find out more about Populous, they can go to populous.co. You can always email me, Micah at populous.co or info@populous.co. And we're on social media and I don't know, all that other stuff. We're out there. We have the Look Alive strategy right now. So
hey, I've also seen some sponsored content in my feed. So you guys are doing more than Look Alive, which is great.
I think I threw 37 cents behind an ad the other day. So and obviously our goal at Populous is always just to, we want to make connections. And so if you guys, if anybody's looking for a place where they can do more than just office, but make connections with people like Ali and other folks like her, we hope that Populous is a place for that. So, Ali, thanks for hanging out for a little bit today.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. We'll have to do a session number 2 where we get into the deep questions of marketing and maybe beyond the slime.
Yeah, right. We'll do it. Okay, have a good rest of your afternoon.
All right, thanks, you too.